Hello and welcome to Kerbs. I'm your host, Tim Albers Daily. Joining me this week is Australian rally driver Nikki Lee. Nikki and I caught up a while back for a lengthy chat about how she first got into motorsport and how getting into it later than most didn't deter her from giving it her all, how she found her way onto the rally scene, how 2023 has been going for her, her ambitions for the future, and quite frankly, a whole lot more. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Hi Nikki, thank you very much for being here today. First of all, how are you?
Good morning. I'm a little bit tired, so you have to bear with me, but we're here. We're doing it.
No, very happy to do it. It's a late night for me, early morning for you, but we make these things work, so that's the important thing. So, first question I like to ask everyone I talk to, it's a very basic, generic question, I understand, but I'm always interested, what first got you interested in motorsport?
It's always the first question. It's always the hardest for me because my story isn't really what everyone wants to hear or the expectation of where we started with all these cool stories of everyone I talk to. But it was literally just growing up in suburbia, watching TV. We weren't into cars. My family wasn't into cars, but they were massive fanatics of watching it on television with the V8 supercars here in Australia and the Holden versus Ford scenario, and that was as far as it went. So we would yell at the television, watch it on TV, and funny enough, my nana lived 20 minutes from the track, the Bathurst track. That's the biggest race of the year, and I'd never actually been, and to this day I've still never got to go watch it in person.
Okay, that's on you now. I was going to forgive you for the early
I know. So we would watch it and I would know all the drivers and we would have our rivalries and we would scream at each other and we'd get upset when they changed teams and all that sort of stuff. And my mum would take me to the sprint car track and we would watch sprints just as something to do on a Friday night. And I said to her when I was about 11, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a sprint car driver. And obviously I never thought I would even get close to even getting in a race car. So that was all just childhood dreams. And then it wasn't until I went to university that I got into motorbikes because I met a boy that rode motorbikes and I was like, I could do that. I don't want to watch. So I started riding and I did that for 10 years, broke a lot of bones, tore a lot of ligaments and was really upset. I had to take 3 years off after breaking my back. And that's how the cars came about. So
there is a lot to try and unpack there.
It was a lot.
Never mind just getting over the fact that you used to jump into Bathurst, but I've got to put that to one side. So it was bikes first, then was that something like you say, just because you're like, that looks like fun and that just escalated essentially?
Well, it was literally just a childhood, like watching it, thinking it was cool. Never as a girl, I guess, wasn't like, oh, I'm not interested. Can we change a channel or I'm going to go do something?
That didn't come into your mind at all?
Never. No, I would sit and watch it to the end and I wouldn't leave and we'd only take breaks to get snacks in the ad breaks and things. And I would look forward to going on the weekends to the track and especially to the dirt tracks. And it wasn't very often. It was whenever mum could take us. But I loved it. She loved it. She was a bit of a lead foot herself, like just normally. So, and then, it just went from there really. Like it didn't actually start until I've only started driving 3 years ago. So it's actually happened really.
It's the weird thing when you look at you from social media and stuff, you'd think that rallying has been all you kind of do there, but there's this, as you said, this 10-year period of bikes, and I kind of want to go into that a little bit. Was that just kind of a Kimi Räikkönen thing is turned into a bit of a hobby that was just very seriously taken? Did you have competitions? What was the extent of it?
Just a hobby. Yeah, just a hobby. I was at university. I was living away from home. I found myself not really clicking. Like I would have friends at uni, but they were all into partying and drinking and all of that. And I just wasn't.
I need this money for the bike.
Yeah. And then I met a boy and he had a bike and we went camping and I went, I'll go camping. Like, that's cool. I'll go to the bush. I never got to do that as a kid. So I was like, I'll go camping. And he had a bike and he would ride it around and then he'd bring it back to camp and I'd say, can I get on? And he'd teach me. And from there, I literally was probably 2 or 3 months after dating him, I'm like, I want one. I want my own one. And I got a little pit bike and hurt myself on that and realized they're just little death traps and thought I'm just going to buy a bike. So I saved up and I bought a secondhand old bush bike and we would take it camping like every other weekend. So it was a hobby of just doing that. And then I met my current partner who has grown up riding. And I mean, grown up riding, like since he could walk. In country Victoria here in Australia, and he is an amazing enduro rider, hard enduro rider. And he went, I thought you could ride, when I met him. I thought I could ride too. Apparently I couldn't ride. And he put me through the training camp basically, and we became basically like enduro riders on the weekends. And
I just love the fact that he said that to you and you're still there with him.
I know. No, literally our whole relationship's been based on like criticism. So it's good because I challenge myself and he's always challenged me to push harder. And I think that's why I'm here now. It's definitely, he's played a huge part in being if it wasn't for him with bikes, I definitely wouldn't be here with cars.
So before we get into the cars, then I do have to ask, because it's a pretty major thing to then stop you from riding the bikes more. How did the back brake come into it? What did you do?
The back brake, that's a different sport altogether because
that wasn't even because of the bikes.
So I've done every other bone. I've done knees, ankles, wrists, everything on the bike, ligaments in my knees that have put me out for a year and stuff. But the back was actually a wakeboarding accident. So when you hit the water...
I love that. You go do the motorbike where you're expecting all this kind of stuff to be part of it, and it's wakeboarding that gets you.
Yeah, in the water where you think it's going to be a soft landing and it's like concrete. Yeah. Yeah, I flipped over and I got knocked out in the back of the head and it was an ordeal. So...
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But it's just me not being able to say no to any kind of adrenaline sport and going, yeah, I'll do that. And then, yeah. Doesn't mean I can do it, but I'll have a go.
But you'll give it a go.
Yeah.
So then, as you say, you kind of met your new partner and you kind of got into the cars that way then. Was it again this case of, ooh, there's a car, I want to try this, and then rinse and repeat, or was it slightly different?
Actually, this one I could get to take a bit more credit for. So I had to stop riding the bikes and I sat around for 3 years and he kept riding and he started going in hard enduro competitions and stuff. So I would just travel with him and support him in his stuff. And then he stopped riding a lot because I would go with him. And I felt really bad that he wasn't riding because I wasn't riding, and I'd push him to go. I always used to say I wanted a paddock basher because I bought a property just in that time that I had a broken back. I bought a property and there was a lot of sitting around with my animals and stuff, and I was getting itchy feet. So I said to him, if the car comes up, like we should buy like a paddock basher car. That car turned out to be a Subaru Impreza, just a GX, like standard non-turbo. And it came up for $500 online on a Saturday morning at like 6 a.m. So we jumped in the car and 5 minutes later we were home with the car.
So I'd be suspicious. Why was it only $500? That seems far too good.
It was parked up, the grass growing underneath it. The guy thought it
one of those.
Literally all it needed was a new battery. But so our win. It was a project car. He'd already gutted it. He had this big thing that he was going to do an enduro race with it, and it sat in the thing. And his wife was like, "It's got to go." So we took it home and I had it for, I think, 2 or 3 weeks of driving around my driveway, kicking up dust. And I found out there was a local track you could just bring any kind of bush basher to. And it didn't need to be registered, or it just had to have a fire extinguisher and wear the bike clothes and off you go. So before I knew it, we were at a carnacross and we were at a dirt carnacross. We were at a tarmac carnacross with it. And I think I only did 3 and went, this car sucks. We need a new one. So we upgraded. And we got another Impreza, which happened to come up for $1,000, which turned out to be awesome. I still have it, and it's awesome. It's a 2.5 liter RS Impreza. So just stepped down from WX, but so much power for a non-turbo. And it was the exact same model bug eye. So now I've got 2 bug eyes in my driveway. And I started taking that to I joined a local club and we started racing it. I started doing well. I got a call from someone who did rally saying, you should come do this track. It's a good carnacross. It's gravel, gives you a chance to feel it out. And I won that in the girls class, and I think came, I don't know, like 10th outright or something like that. But it was my first one, and I was like, I don't belong here.
You were just there to have a good time. You weren't necessarily expecting
whatever. Like I'd literally been driving like 3 months. I think I'd had these cars. There was only weeks apart from buying the first one to the second one, pretty much. And then we did that. And the funny thing was about that story is we love, and I've got a memory on my phone the other day of the photo, and we love it. It's a picture of me driving to the track. It's the trailer that we had. It happened to be a truck, so it could hold 2 cars just by chance. And we had this long trailer. So we went to this track in Brisbane with my first GX. drove the track. A friend of ours lived nearby and said, I've got a better car and we wanted to upgrade. He said, I've got an RS model of that car. Come and buy it if you want it. It's $1,000. You can have it. So we went to his house on the way home and picked up that car. So we drove home with the two cars on the back of the same year model, just, upgrade. And when we got there, he's a WRX guy and he happens to have like a tarmac one that's crazy off its head. And he had this other one just sitting there, this SDI bug eye sitting in the driveway. And I went, oh, are we picking this one up? Just joking around.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, yeah, add a zero and, you can have it. And at the time, a zero would have been, what, 10K? We were like, oh, no. Would have been a steal, right? But we, at the time, just laughed it off. And he laughed it off because it just was a spare car for him. And we left. Fast forward, I think, not even 4 months, he sold us that car, and that is my current rally car. So it's quite funny. We have the photo, and we have the photo that night of the truck at his house with our two cars on it that we picked up, and then that one next to it. And there's a photo of all
just
three
looking.
that are actually all three of my cars now. So it's quite crazy, and then before we knew it, my partner built, we picked the car up in December and he had the rally car built by March, ready for our first rally. So this all happened in like an 8-month period of owning that first car in like July, that first paddock basher for $500.
It comes across just so much like in a video game. You get the basic package and you just start upgrade.
That's great. I got some money, upgrade.
Yeah.
Oh, sticker kit. Like, yeah, that's pretty
Pick
much.
a few things on it, make it look a bit nicer, upgrade a bit. There we go. All right, we can take it out now.
That's it. And that happened. Yeah, it's funny to look back actually, and I forget when I'm really critical of myself of this hasn't been a 10-year thing. This happened really fast. And like you said, from social media, people just assume that this has been in my life forever. And it really has. Even with the bikes, we never competed. We weren't at that level. We didn't do motocross, which people seem to think that I was some motocross champion before I came across. But
I mean, it's not a bad reputation to have, even if it's not warranted. There, it's like, I'm just not going to deny it. But good luck finding proof.
Well, I do, because I think they think that gives me some kind of, why is she doing well, or like that I haven't put the work in. I've got this talent from before that crosses, And I think somewhere in there, bikes probably help me in rally. Not in any kind of skill set with the driving, but in the way to read the road. Maybe I've always said to people, maybe doing enduro riding, you don't know what's coming, and you don't have to repeat the same track or the same corner. So you're always scanning and looking ahead and looking at what the road's doing, if it's slippery, if it's going to dry up, if there's a rut. So you're looking at that. I think those kind of reflexes are probably there, and that's probably why I wasn't scared to have a go when we don't have pace notes, when we do blind rallies. But yeah, everything else was brand new, like learning to drive a car as a race car driver rather than just driving to the shops.
Slightly different.
Yeah, so, and I'd never owned a turbo car in my life either,
So you kind of read my mind a bit there, because I was going to ask you about what do you think you got from the motorbike riding, essentially, that helped you with the rallying, but you kind of just went and straight away told me the answer to that before I got there. So reading my mind.
I think because people assume that, you're at this level of bikes, people have assumed that from social media just on their own.
Well, I think there's this transferable skill element to it as well. It's not going to be exactly the same, but it's just always interesting to see what you can bring from one category to another, to see how that impacts.
Definitely. That's probably the most obvious to me, is the scanning and the reading of the camber and the road and things like that. Probably a little bit in the way that you approach, like I said, I haven't earlier before we're off camera, like I haven't jumped the rally car, but when we're approaching things like grids or ruts or humps or bumps or whatever people want to call them, the approach into them, I was very nervous, and I would do what everyone else probably does when they start, hopefully. You brake way too late and you lock up on it, and then you're like sliding over it, and you've lost all the power. I initially went and did that as a panic thing, and then the minute that my partner, who is my navigator, said, it's just like bikes, why are you doing it like that? Why are you freaking out? And the minute he reminded me that approaching a hump or a bump in the car is the same as bikes, not that I'd motocross jumped, but I knew how to approach that.
It just kind of clicked.
Style. It clicked, and then all of a sudden I'm braking early and I'm on the power on the up ramp. I knew when to hit it and when not to, and when it was too late. So that kind of helps. But I mean, that's probably a 2% thing that you really have to come across in the rally. But knowing, when to power on and when to brake, and not lock up on things that are the problem. And that's, not to say that my first rally, I didn't do that. I did that at every grid. I'm like, oh God, and just, but once I settled down.
Plan, get there, be calm, do it, panic, and then just do something else.
Yeah, that's it. That was a write-off. What did we take from that? So, the first one was definitely like driving Miss Daisy. When I watched the videos back, I'm like, I don't belong here. What am I doing? But hopefully now we've sort of figured it out a little bit.
Yeah, there's been a bit more time passed since then, and you can tell you've got your feet on the table a bit more with everything.
I think we've done probably still only 7 rallies though over the 2.5 years. So,
but still, I mean, there's never really such a thing as a short rally though, and also there's so much you can gain from each one of those on top of it. So it's kind of like, only 7, but still 7. It's still pretty decent.
And every single one, it's like you take something different from it that I think improved, or things that I did differently that I should change, or every single time I'm like, oh, I really think that's what I got, but I sucked at this. So, so there's always like the good and the bad that come from every single one.
As well, because I was saying earlier that if we just looked at your profile, you'd think rallying would be the main thing for you. So potentially stupid question, but I'll ask it anyway. Nickstar Racing, is that your own team, or is that just a coincidence with the name?
That's our own team now. So when we started, we got some advice from people saying, I said, oh, this is just for fun. Like, we don't need a logo. We don't need a name. Like, we'll just go out and do it. And they said to me, no, trust me. Once you start, you'll just keep wanting to go forward, and you'll end up doing that down the track, and it'll be like too late. And, sponsorships, you're going to need them. And I was just thinking, what are you talking about? This is just like bikes. It's a fun, and I'm glad I got that advice from the get-go. And it was actually the people that made my suit for me that pushed me to quickly come up with something straight away. And I already had the Nickstar tag for my social media. But I didn't even know. Since the day I got it, it's been a nickname anyway. So we just decided to just run with what people already knew me as, and it stuck, and it was easy. So, you know. Yeah.
I can say there's no confusion there. There's a kind of thing like, is that too much of a coincidence, or is that just me being not there and not stating the obvious?
No, that's it.
So that is what you've done, a bit of door-to-door racing from what I could tell on your socials as well. What was that like, and how different was that from what you were normally doing?
Oh my God, if we had video footage of that we could insert right now, I wouldn't have to talk. You would know. It was so different. Obviously, only having a handful of experience in the rally already in the car, and having to learn dirt and the driving style, and thinking that I still don't really know what I'm doing, and then to jump on a tarmac track. And I thought, parts of me thought this will be easier because I get to go around in circles and practice the same corner over and over again. And then, that's
in
probably
theory, that makes sense.
It's scary. But I actually found that the most uncomfortable part, because I'm very analytical and my head's in the car always going. So, and we were talking about this yesterday at testing actually, that the repetition, it starts to almost be my worst enemy, because I know what I'm doing wrong, or what I want to do, or what I think I should do from what I've seen.
You can only look ahead so far because you know what's coming.
I know what's coming, and then I stuff up that corner, and I think I'm meant to be thinking about the next one, and I'm mad about the last one. And it's basically the entire way around is, I need to be in more. I needed to be on the gas more. I needed to do this. I braked too late. I didn't brake late enough. And
it's like delayed thinking, because you're thinking about what's already happened, but you can't do anything because you're already on the next one.
And I'm so tired. Like, it actually tires me out more than a rally stage, because of the adrenaline and the thinking. I'm exhausted, and the mental game in that. And then that's just in general practice. Then you throw 40 cars in the ring with you.
Yep.
And it's a huge field here in Australia. Excels is massive, and it's in every state, and they do it across Australia. They've actually brought in like an across Australia championship. People are traveling interstate for it. And these guys are no joke. These are the biggest competition, and the hardest part for me jumping in there was, the rally driver, blah, blah, blah. No. This is like a girl who's driven for 2 years, if that. And these are kids that have driven in go-karts since, 3 or 4 or 5 years old, and they're 16 now in an XL. So their career is a 10-year span of racing already. Mm-hmm. And, they've got the left foot braking from go-karts already. So they're already, they've already got all this sort of race media, the whole race prep and the race head. And I think you go out there, fumble around and think I'm still trying to learn the race line. And they're already like, I'm doing this. I'm going to bump you out the way. I'm going to put my car there.
Yeah.
And I'm just going, literally Talladega Nights. And those are the other cars.
I was going to say.
It was literally that moment, like for at least my whole first day of racing. It was, I went from a general practice of just trying to learn where to go. And every time a car went past me, I would just move out the way. To basically my first day of racing in the grid, just qualifying. There you go. You've qualified 24 or 26 out of 30 or something ridiculous like that at the back. Off you go. We're going to do a rolling start. Go. I'm like,
have fun.
And there's no one in the car next to me like I normally have to like ease. So it's like, bye in the window, like
to be fair, I think that's probably a good thing there isn't anyone in that second seat next to you, because they'd just be screaming their head off and that wouldn't help you much either.
It wouldn't have been fun for them, trust me. I was like, I'm glad I didn't, and I didn't have a crew chief either. We didn't have all the gear that everybody had, where they've got people helping and coaches and dads and all of the things that they're all, on the track watching and going, do this person's coming, or we've gone green, or we're under yellow. We had none of that. It was just me on my own, the sound of this loud ass car. And, and I'm used to a rally helmet too, which even that was like,
it's just little differences, because you notice everything, I assume at that point, because it's like you try not to focus on the big things. Like, oh, at least I've got this and this. Like, oh no, I don't actually.
Everything was just like, what? Like, yeah. And to not know, like, I'm still trying to fathom what happens in a moment of a crash. Like, what they can do all the briefs and all this, but until you have that muscle memory and you've experienced something, you can take all the theory and you like, but when you actually have to go out there and do it, and then you come in and people are like, you should have done this, you should have done this. I'm like, well, hang on, you go out there, you see, and then we'll talk about it. But yeah, it was definitely an experience. I'm so glad I did it though. Like, I did the whole season. I thought I was just going to have one go and we'll see.
Well, it's good in that respect that you didn't just panic immediately. Like, nope, out.
No, I'm just not a quitter. And I was like, right, what can we do to be better? Like, I'm here every weekend now. Like, let's go. And I was really lucky. The only reason I really got into XLs is I met a team by chance who were one of the top teams in XLs, and they happened to put, like, every year, like, they have a spare car and they sort of get up and comers and chuck them in the car and bring them into their team. Yeah, and they've had name drivers like Brock Feeney, a huge driver here in Australia, who's just gone to supercars. He's had a dream run. He's Super 3, Super 2s, bang. Like, his career is just catapulted because he's amazing. He actually started with this team that helped me in the XL. So he drove for them for a year, I think. I don't know the actual stats on how long, but he was with them. And to have them say to me, like, we'd love to have you. And they chucked me in their car and gave me a test, and I completely sucked. But they said, look, for the first time out there with no guidance and stuff, you had no radio, no one told you what to do or where to go. You've never done it. We actually see potential. I think you should really have a go at this. And my partner,
sometimes that's all you need, it's just kind of like, well, you must know roughly what you're talking about, because I definitely don't. So I'm just gonna have to trust you here, and let's see what happens.
What, are you insane? Like, do you have marbles in your head? Like, what? No, why? So my partner heard this and met them, and then I started going and watching all of their races and helping out, and because it was the end of the year, so we went to a couple of races, and then Christmas came, and guess what turns up in my driveway? So Santa brought me an XL, didn't he? So next we were racing that following year because we had this XL. He got it cheap. It definitely wasn't race ready. It was matte black spray can paint, like, terrible. But we took it and we called it the Black Betty Beast, and off we went. We had no business being in that field at all in that car, but
but I feel like from a neutral's perspective, though, you see a driver like that or a team like that. Yeah, let's just root for them, because you know that there's absolutely zero expectation from anyone there. So you're just like, let's just have some fun with it and see what happens, and it just makes it more enjoyable.
You're right about that. There probably wasn't any expectation, but I knew you would, but yeah. And then the other thing was, then there was the whole same as with the motorbikes. Oh, but she's a rally driver, and rally drivers, as we know, like WRC, are the best drivers in the world. And I don't care sort of what discipline you do. If you watch that, those guys are at another level to any circuit racer I've ever seen. And you get the guys that cross over that have that head and can do it. But those guys are just mental, right? And so then I think come with that, people forget that we're not WSE. I just started rallying and at a local level. And now it's, the rally driver, let's see what she's got, you know? And I'm like, no. It's good.
It is a little bit like saying, oh, you've done a Formula Regional Championship, you'll be fine in F1. It's like, well, no, there's a little bit of a gap between the two of those that you have to get
exactly right. You know, I'd had like 3 or 4 rallies under my belt, I think, when I joined XLs, and no tarmac, no go-kart experience, no nothing, no circuit racing, not even circuit racing on a bike. So looking at this track, I literally remember thinking, oh my God, it's a highway. Where do I go? Because it was so wide and the corners were so wide, and you could fit 4 wide in the corner. And all I'm used to is a dirt track that has trees everywhere. And I've got one way to go. There's only one place.
These lines are too big for me to stay in there. I need it narrow.
I'm looking at it going, well, where do I go? I've got all these choices and I don't know what to do with it. So it actually took me, like, I remember my first lap out, no joke, I took the inside of a huge turn for no reason except for the fact that I just thought the inside line is, and that is ridiculous looking back now, like it's embarrassing. But to not know even to go to the outside and where the apex was, all of this was just gibberish to me. Like I had no idea. All I knew is I go
and drive, stick to it, go.
I brake, I slide, I turn and I go. Like there's none of that in tarmac. So that was a huge difference. And even now, like I definitely have so much to learn on the tarmac, but I think it's actually I didn't think it was going to help me back in the rally car. And I remember saying to my partner, I'm too new to be doing 2 different disciplines at the same time. I think I'm getting crossed up and confused and it's going to hinder both, you know, to go 2 weeks, you know, 2 car race,
2 weeks off and then
2 weeks off, and I'm back in the rally car. And I was like, this is what top level drivers can do, jump in this car and jump in that car. I'm like, this is not someone who's dabbling in all of it.
I need to build up to this. I can't start like this.
Yeah, but now we've chatted about it a lot, and I didn't think it really helped, but it actually probably has, in the way that I look at a dirt corner now, that I can see an apex and I can see that it is wider than I thought it was, and I can set my car up a little bit better. And on the dirt, even though we are going to spin and it's not the same, it's still I'm looking further ahead now, and I'm not just looking at what's right in front of me. And in XLs, because you have so many other cars, you're always looking for the crashes and the stuff. And you know, so in rally, sometimes you can focus
and you can actually avoid it on track there as well, because there's space to drive around it probably.
Yeah, actually my first race, the first crash was in my first lap, and it was a 10-car pile-up on turn 3.
I shouldn't have said anything.
Oh my God, I just started and this is already happening, and I had no radio and no one to pre-warn me. So I'd scanned and seen it, thank goodness, early, and I'd qualified at the back. So it was like the rat pack in the middle. So I had a little bit
What I'm hearing there is that was all part of the plan. Qualify at the back, avoid the carnage, drive around it, off we go.
Cruise, you know, have a coffee, drinking macchiato, you know. But yeah, I had a quick scan and I just happened to be able to my first instinct, and I just jumped on the inside, and everybody tried to go around on the outside, but then cars were being sort of pushed over that way. And I just remember chucking a wheel on the inside line on the grass, like over the curb. And I just railed around this massive corner that turned into a hairpin for me, and just avoided the whole lot on the inside, and then took off. And I was like, yes, you know, I'm through. And
well, again, I feel like with that, maybe it was the rally side of you coming out there, because it was something you had to anticipate and do something. It wasn't planned.
Definitely. That's exactly right. It was like, I have to react. And that's probably the only skill set that came in handy from rally to that, is quick reaction times to something that you're not ready for.
And I think as well, the 2 weeks on, the 2 weeks off as well, like you're saying, I think that for me, in theory at least, that would help you as well, because you then have to focus and concentrate more when you're in one and realize there is a difference to it being from what you were doing previously. So you have no choice, but you're either going to do terribly and it's going to go badly and crash and whatnot, or you learn and you just get on with it because the other choice is terrible.
The other choice is terrible, yes. The good thing about swapping to the XLs is we always have a general practice as part of the race weekend. They obviously, like in most of the tarmac stuff, they get practice plus qualifying. So by the time you actually start the race, you're like, okay, I remember kind of what to do now.
Yeah.
Whereas with rally, we don't get that. Like if I've got a rally the following weekend, it's literally jump in the car. You don't drive. If you're not pace noting either, you don't even see the track. So if it's a blind rally, we literally just get in it. And the only time I get to drive it before we start the race is the liaison stage. And sometimes that can only be 2 kilometers down the road, doing 60 km an hour, and you're at the start line and you go, oh my
That's
God,
not enough.
do I remember what to do? I gotta remember what to do. Holy crap! Like, so yeah, it's
again, it's just a more extreme version of what I was saying there. It's like you just got to get on with it, or it's going to go badly.
Just got to get on with it. And the funny thing is, with my partner being super critical, like with the bikes and helpful, he's always the first one to say what my positives and what my negatives are. And he's always told me, "Oh, your worst trait with any of these sports is such a goer. Like you learn. Like he always says, they're taking. I'm like a sponge. I can learn really quick. If I get coaching, I can sort of put it into practice really fast. But the other thing is if something changes in a car, and it used to be the same with the bike, if they change my suspension or they change the tires or they just the slightest little thing, I'm the first person to go, what did you do? I don't like it. Because I've just got this muscle memory. Everything has to stay the same.
Perfect.
And they'll fix it for the better. But
you've got to get used to it again because you're so used to it working.
And I have this moment. I have a moment of panic, and that's what's hard. It takes me, and in rally, that's part of the problem, is my first stage is always so far off the pace because it takes me a full stage to remember the car.
Relearn everything.
Relearn it all. And so when you're jumping from one to the other, unfortunately, it feels like they've made changes, but they actually haven't. It's just that I drove this like two-wheel drive.
Car.
Front-wheel drive car and then jumped in a turbo all-wheel drive car. It's kind of, you're going to feel a difference. So, yeah, but I think it's been good for me to have to make me get out of that habit of just having to adapt quicker and not complain and not take as long to remember this is what you got to do now, get it done. So
going off that, then I'm intrigued because there's a lot of stories and just all kinds of stuff that we've had from you so far. But is there one in particular memory from racing that's your favorite?
Oh God, that's a hard question. I think you can never not say it's your first one. So for me, probably the first rally, not because it went well or was a dream or anything like that. I think it's going to be memorable because it's your first one. Put it that way. It actually
happened.
It happened, and it was so surreal. Like, given what I've already told you about how quick it really happened, a lot of people didn't realize how quickly it really had happened for us. And it was like we just woke up.
Including yourself.
And yeah, and it really was like, and so there was some negative backlash from that too. Like because we built the car so fast, like in 3 months from a street car. And when I say built, we talk about just the cage and the things we had to do to be allowed to race it. It's still a stock car, which a lot of people can't believe. It literally has the aircon and the stereo still in it. So that's how stock it is.
You've got to have some tunes.
But my partner did such a good job of getting it ready, and we rushed. And the first rally we were supposed to go to was a local state round and an easy one, and it got cancelled because of the rain. So what happened was the very next one happened to be a Queensland state round one as well as an ARC round for the Australian rally. So it is the biggest one on our state calendar. And
you're just rocking up to that.
And the thing is with that is the Queensland Championship has a round within it for the championship. But because I was actually joining as a novice and had every intention of doing the novice category, which they have here, they have a novice and a clubman category before you step up. It actually isn't a novice round, being that it's 2 days and it's full on and it's massive. They just don't have it. But you are welcome to compete as a non-compete. So you're able to come and do it. You don't have to do all the stages. You can just do 1 day out of the 2 days, but you have the option of doing the full thing. So us being us, we're like, oh, well, we're going.
We'll do all of it.
Yeah, and lots of people said, I don't think you should do this one because, your first one should have been that last one. Why don't you wait until the next one that's a cruisy one? It's easier. You don't have to pay. It's, repetitive. It's short. It won't be 8 stages and a night stage and a next day and all this crazy.
Where's the fun in that? Go in the deep end straight away.
Exactly. And the thing is too, I think ignorance is bliss. We had never even watched a rally. We had never been to a rally. Like I said, we'd gone to a Carnicross and someone said, you should come do rally. And we went, okay. Right. And it's probably, looking back, I think a lot of people don't like that, and we probably should have done our research and gone to more, but we had this opportunity. We weren't going to go, oh, we'll wait a year and we'll go watch rallies
now.
Why
would you?
You know, had I had that upbringing where I was able to go and volunteer at rallies and learn more from behind the scenes, definitely would have helped preparation of knowing what we were in for.
But again, I think doing something like that, you throw yourself in the deep end unknowingly, admittedly, but it's too late by that point. As we've said before, it's like you just get on with it and do it, and you see what happens in some of the easier ones later on, where you're like, okay, it can't be that bad in comparison, so I should feel more confident.
And it really was that bad, but I definitely didn't realize how hard. I think doing little carnicross tracks that are 1 kilometre long or 3 kilometres long is completely different, and the top speeds are 100, if that, for a split second, and then most of it's 60. So just because you can corner at 60 doesn't mean you have any business being out on a rally stage. But again, you don't learn until you do it. And also, I don't want to admit it, but I'm not as young as I should be starting in motorsport, so I didn't think I had the time to sit back and watch for a few years and learn and practice some more. It was like, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it now, or we're never going to do it. So let's just have a go.
It makes it more interesting as a story as well, from my perspective. Like, yeah, it could have. I probably wouldn't even then necessarily be talking to you right now if you'd gone down that route, because you'd still be there watching me, or just starting out, and be like, well, I have no idea who she is yet.
And maybe I would have talked myself out of it, because I would have thought, I've got no business being here.
Well, yeah, you watch it and think, oh, maybe not actually. That looks a bit too
Whereas
far.
My initial thought is like, yeah, that looks like fun, let's go. And no research has been done. So, but I think that's why. So back to the question is, the first one, I have to say, probably has to be the first one, not because I, had my first win or had my first whatever. Just because we finished, we did the entire weekend. We had no business being there apparently, and we probably didn't. That's probably right to say, but we met some really good people. We crossed the line. I had the guy in front of me that was seated above me wait at the finish line for me, because he remembered his first one. And that was such a lovely moment that he pulled up, and instead of continuing back to the park, he stayed just so he could get the photo of us in our car next to us, with that reaction of the first one, and the relief and the smiles and the adrenaline that didn't stop. You cross that line, you think, oh my God, I did it. Like I just did something. I don't even know what I probably came last. But
you don't care at that point, do you? Because you're just there to do it.
Crash. I was just trying not to crash. Like that was the goal. So so that moment and that photo that we have is pretty endearing to have that, because that other team member, like he's still now like one of the guys I love seeing at rally, because I have that special moment with him that he did that for us. And it was so lovely of him to do that, knowing that he remembers his first one. And he was right. It was just all the emotions, and you want to cry and laugh and everything all at once, because you're like, what did I just do? It was just like, it's like I blacked out for the whole thing, and then I came to at the end, like I don't remember breathing or anything. And people would ask, like,
I think it's like we were talking about before a camera, it was this kind of thing. It's like you get there and then you just you get in the zone, and you kind of forget everything, because you're just so focused on doing the job in hand that you don't have time to think about anything else. So you get to the end like, oh, is that it? All right.
Yeah. And the other thing about that is you do obviously repeat stages at rally. And it's funny now, I look back at how I never used to even be able to remember a stage. Like someone would ask me, oh, do you remember this corner or that bit there? Or remember how it just dips in here and then that? And they're describing it all. And I'm like, what? Was there a fence there? Was there a grid? Where? Like, I literally was like, how did I just drive that? I have no memory.
You're too in the zone.
Too just heightened emotion and fear. I'm just getting it done. And then, and I had no memory. Whereas it's funny now, it's only been, 7 rallies. And now I'm the one going, as soon as I've done it once, I'm like, oh, we need to fix that corner. That bit with the water. And I've got like more of a photographic memory of, because I think I've relaxed in the car more, that I can take in the scenery and actually remember the track.
You've got time to sit back and have that coffee.
Yeah, and I can remember it now, and I think, oh, things have changed a little bit, like, and that's when you have to take a step back and go, maybe I have gotten better, like, because I'm so hard on myself that I think, oh, hang on a minute, if we go back to that one, it was a lot different, and we didn't do that one easy. We had car problems in testing. My partner spent the whole night up till 1 a.m. I think it was the night before the race started, with the car in pieces on jacks. And we thought we were out before it began, and thank goodness. And I think that's another reason why it was our favorite, like a good memory, that one, is because we were just we were grassroots races. We had no team. My navigator is my crew chief, my mechanic, my partner. I'm the driver. I'm the admin. I do half the navigating admin roles as well, because he's got no time because he's under the car. And we're just us. It was just us. We didn't have anyone. And we had so many teams at that Australian level, being that we were in the same area as the Australian guys. We had Andrew Penny and his team come in. They stayed till midnight under our car. He brought in his mechanics, his crew. We're trying to diagnose what was wrong. We had torches out under the car trying to find shards of metal, and it was insane. And people had told us, the rally community, and we got to see that firsthand, that these top teams with a job to do tomorrow that are actually competing for stakes, and here's us who don't matter. We're not even a competition. We're in as a non-compete, and they're under our car trying to make this happen for us so that we don't have to quit. And they stayed with us till, early hours of the morning, just to make sure we got out there, and that was such a nice moment. And to this day, I've been interviewed before, and I can't give those guys enough accolade for that, because
you can't not love that, can you?
I just love them for that, and I hadn't met them. I didn't know who they were. They didn't know who we were, and they were willing to do that. And there was a few people throughout that weekend that did that for us, or come up to us and said, wow, you guys did it. And we're like, we sucked, but thank you. And they're like, no, you have to take the fact that finishing a rally is a feat in itself. Whereas me being super competitive and highly critical, like, I couldn't understand that. It was like, what do you mean we just finished? Isn't that the goal for everyone? Like,
yes,
shouldn't everyone? And I did not realize, I was so naive about that stuff, because I'd never watched rally about how high the stakes are with crashing or mechanical failures, or
it's kind of this weirdly nice just I forget the word now, but it's this weird just kind of ignorance that you had there that wasn't intentional, but it just kind of it weirdly served you well.
Yeah, and
because
it wasn't
you didn't have the time to worry about anything.
Exactly.
And you got annoyed with things, but not for the reasons people thought you would get annoyed for it.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. And like you said, it wasn't an ignorance, and it definitely wasn't an arrogance. I think some people might think that, they just think they can rock up to a rally, like, who do they think they are? It definitely was the opposite to that. It was more just like, we didn't know, what we were doing. And we had people in our ear prior to rally saying, like, there was numerous people saying, you should come do rally. We didn't kind of just decide on our own.
Oh, no.
It was voices, and I literally got phone calls out of the blue saying, I will be your navigator if you choose to do this. You shouldn't have a novice navigator for your first one. And he was a veteran who is quite reputable, and he offered to come with me. And in the end, it turned out that he couldn't sit with me for other reasons, but and that's the only reason my partner jumped in. He had no intention either of being a navigator. He hadn't even learned how to be a navigator, but he didn't want to.
He's just sitting there wondering, how the hell did I end up in this situation?
Yeah, and I think people don't know that story either, that like, he literally didn't choose this. He did this for me. He thought, I'll put her in a car. This is her dream. This
is just reading a map. This should be fine. Oh dear. Escalated.
Oh yeah. And then not to mention, he gets car sick. So yeah. So you've got this guy
when he's not doing that. That's a separate thing.
He's car sick as a passenger. He gets sick on a plane, so he gets motion sickness. So
I'm just glad that doesn't happen when he's a driver, because that would be a very awkward thing to have to do.
No, that's the only time it doesn't. But I don't want to swap seats with him. So
that's fair.
Yeah, so it's funny, but that it definitely, it wasn't an arrogance. It was just more like I said with the story with bikes. It's always, and wakeboards and jet skis, and I just see something.
You see something, you want to do it.
And I just want to do it. I've never been the girl on the sidelines that has the boyfriend that's impressing you, going, oh, do you like that? And I'll sit and clap. And I'm proud of them, but I go, can you teach me? Like, I want to I don't want to sit and watch. I'm happy to support you, but give me a go.
Also,
I'll do it.
When is it my turn?
When is it my turn? And that's what happened. It was like, okay, you think I should do it? Should I do that? Okay. But I think when they say it, they don't realize, they didn't know me, that we would take it probably literal and as fast as we did, maybe. I don't know if people thought I was ready or they meant like you should look towards
what I'm learning here is that if I have an idea for something that you should maybe do, I need to be very careful in how I word it.
Yeah, because if you
Because you will
literally
take
said,
it.
"Oh, it sounds like you'd be good at that," I'd probably be looking it up tomorrow online going, how much is that to get into? Can we buy a hand one for $500?
Would you say that on the flip side of that, then, that your kind of self-criticism is the most challenging part of everything that you've been going through so far?
Yeah. And we were talking about this at testing yesterday. I had a good friend who's an ARC driver. He's a junior champion from last year and the year before, and a two-wheel drive podium placer quite constantly, and he's quite good. And we happened to meet him at a rally, and I asked him the other day if he's become quite a good friend, and I said, would you come and just give me some pointers? We've got to go test anyway. Would you be happy to sit in? And we got out of the car and he was quiet the whole time, and I thought, oh, here we go. Like, oh God, it's going to be a long list.
Just expecting the worst immediately.
Yeah, because again, I might be doing okay, but I'm winging it. I don't have any technique that I know of, because I don't know if I'm doing textbook driving or not. There hasn't been those go kart and this and then moving my way up. I've never had anybody sit next to me and tell me what to do. I've just kind of, that doesn't work, trial and error and muscle memory, and that's working for me. And then the problem with that is it could be a bad habit that's working for me. I can make work, but if someone else tried to do it that way, they'd be like, what are you doing? That's so dangerous. So I was very nervous about somebody who's not my partner even just watching my footwork or my braking, and I did drive probably a lot worse than I would because of that. But the funny thing was, without saying anything, he jumped out, and I asked him, like, what do you think? And one of the things he said, and one of the main things that was the day overall, was, you're your own worst enemy. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, it's not really the driving. Like, if I give you pointers, you went out and you improved that straight away, or taking in the fact that you care what people think, and you are also too hard on yourself, that you're not the next corner or the next corner. And that in rally, that doesn't really have a chance, because I can mess up, but because you don't know what's coming, I sort of have to focus. I think in rally I'm okay at that. I do get annoyed at myself.
It was like the track racing you were saying earlier, that there's the opposite problem.
Track racing, and that's what happened in testing. We were on a dirt track essentially, so you've done it 10 times. So what was happening as we went on through the days, I was actually getting worse, because I knew now where I needed to improve, what I needed to do. And if I didn't quite get it, knowing there's this coach who's watching me, plus my own head of going, oh, you suck, why didn't you get that? You've been told and you didn't get it.
Again, it goes a bit like the video game thing we were saying earlier. You just want to like restart, and then I can try it again. I don't need to keep going it. I just want to restart it, nail it, and then when I've got it perfect, then I'll go on to the next bit. But I don't want to continue the whole way around.
Because we had to keep doing it. And he said that, he goes, I can see what's happening now. You've got this corner that you can't do, that's 3 corners away, and the 2 before it you had down pat. But now, because you're thinking about this 3rd corner, you messed up the 2 before that you had 3. Because you're just all in your own head, being critical of yourself, being critical that you can't get it, and you're already defeated, that you've messed up all the other ones on the entry, and you've sacrificed those corners because you're thinking about the next. And that is definitely where excels, and track racing is really hard for my personality, because it's so repetitive, and I'm constantly criticizing and thinking and mapping, and I need to go there. And then when I don't go there, I'm mad. And then it's the next corner, it's too late. You can't be mad about what just happened. You have to focus on the next thing, and that's why I think blind rallies, I like them, because you don't know what's coming, got no notes. It's just a reflex, and you do what you got to do, and you get to the end, and then you can criticize when it's over. Oh, I didn't really go very fast there, or I could have won, but it's too late. The criticism comes when you're not driving. But the problem with driving something that you're preempting is the criticism. So it's definitely, the analytical side goes in your favor, because I'm willing to learn, and I constantly want to tell me what I'm doing wrong. I love it. Like, constructive criticism, love it. I don't take offense.
As long as it's from literally anyone but yourself.
Exactly. But myself is just, you suck. It's just this negative voice going like, why do you suck? Like, and it's my partner who has to say to me, do you forget where you started? Do you forget that this was like 5 minutes ago, And it doesn't matter how much he says that, I'll go to home from a race and, I'll be upset. Even rallies, I've, for my class. Like I've had second. We stepped up this year and we got a first as soon as we stepped up. So in my category, I'm doing well. But do you think that I hear that? All I see is the overalls. No. I go back and look at stage times and I go, oh my God, like, what are we doing? We're so far off the pace. Like, what a joke. I stuffed up here. And I just have this, and it's not
it reminds me of the comedy sketch. So it's this really dominant racing driver, and it's like he's won by 40 seconds or something, and he's being interviewed. He goes, "Oh, yeah, we didn't quite nail this corner though, and didn't do that, and we must have pitched out that kind of thing." And it's like, yeah, but you won.
You won, but it's not enough.
It's like, yeah, but if we didn't do this, like, you won though. It's like, yeah.
That's it. And you do see a lot of those top drivers, they're very critical. So I don't know, maybe that's, you need to be, maybe that's how they get where they get, because they're always pushing. So I don't know, but I need to remember this is for fun. We're not, this isn't a career move, like, you know, so that's hard. That's a
I'm
hard
beginning
thing.
I'm beginning to think you're a bit of a competitive person. I don't know how much that can apply.
I am competitive, and I don't like how that sounds. Sometimes when people say, are you competitive? I'm very reluctant to say yes, because with that comes that negative connotation that you do anything to win, that you don't care about the people around you. It's all about you. It's actually the opposite. It's competitive to myself. And if I think I can win or I have done well, then now I go in there with an expectation that anything less than that isn't good enough anymore. So it's not about like, I should have beat him, or I can beat him, or I'm better than them. It's
you're not even focused on them. It's just you are better than you.
They're not even there. Like, they're not even there. And if that's where I don't know if I should probably change this about myself, but I don't look at my times, and I don't like watch back anything, and I don't, during a rally stage, like, people will check their updated times and where they're sitting in the field as the day goes on. I literally stay away from it. I tell anyone around me, my crew, anyone, I don't want to hear about it. Don't tell me. And that's a negative and a positive. I do it because my theory is, being that I know myself and that I'm hard on myself, if I hear I'm doing well in the stages and I'm sitting in a really good spot for the day and we've still got, 4 to go, that pressure that I'm going to put on myself to stay there will make me make mistakes. If I, on the other hand, hear I'm doing bad, I'm going to push past my comfort zone. And yes, you need to push, but I can only drive what I can drive. I'm not going to go from here to here in one rally. So if I hear I'm that much off the pace, there's no point trying to drive at a level that I'm not comfortable or safe. Then I won't finish, then I'll crash, and then we'll have damage. And what's that going to achieve? So I don't want to hear that. I know I'm going to push every time a little bit more than last time. And that's the increment I'm happy at. If I hear I need to push to there, I think only negative things can come from that for me. So I just choose not to hear. Maybe I should, but I just, for me, there's those two sides. I think nothing positive can come from knowing. So.
You're also an interior decorator when you're not driving, so I'm intrigued why this, and does this ever impact the liveries on your car?
Liveries in my car, yes. Because again, I have an eye for, I used to be an events manager, and then I went into interior design, and both of them are very visual, creative jobs. So as far as the livery goes, yes, that was me on my iPad. I actually have a little, you might have seen it on Instagram, a little reel. It's like, show me something, a dirty little sketch, and what it turned into. And it was terrible. Definitely, I'm not great of graphic design when it comes to interior design. I'm not great at the computer side of it. But I literally had my iPad, a photo of the car, and I kind of scribbled what I wanted. And I went to a friend who does stickers, and he sent me a couple of ideas that were more like track cars. And I think the track car livery and rally like it was more, I don't know, it's not new school. Like we've got more straight lines and all of this. And I was like, I know that's not what it's meant to look like, but that's not me, you know? So I just decided that I wanted it more out there and more bright, and it definitely doesn't look like a rally car. I think it's probably more so on the sides of a drift car, like as far as colour scheme.
Yeah, I was going to say drifting seems to be more what
with coloured wheels and
yeah,
it's probably taken more from, because those liveries are so amazing. There's crazy graphics, and you see Tokyo Drift sort of
from the movie. That is exactly
you see all these cool things. So the business that's on the side is our own business, is my partner's business. So there was no major sponsor to start with, despite what people think. It's ourselves and our own money. And we decided, why not advertise our own business? This is all us. Yeah. So I definitely probably thought it was fun, the livery part. But on the flip side of that, I was nervous about doing it because the car used to just be plain white and it had no stickers and it was quite understated. And it didn't.
I feel like white is always risky for a rally because that's never going to get clean again.
It doesn't. But black the dust just as bad, so it's probably worse. But yeah, my partner, even he wanted it to stay just plain as well for that underdog scenario. Yeah. Like, oh, you're nobodies. It's all good. And then if you do well, where did they come from? You turn up with the car
so
now.
You see the car like, I can't recognize anything from this. This could be anyone.
Exactly. And we liked it that way, kind of. And then we pushed it and we sort of got these colors and all of the thing. And then with that comes that, again, that expectation of like, oh, it's a new car, or they've put more work into the car. They've got more money in it. They've got a new motor. They've got upgrades. Yeah. No, it's still same.
Just slap some new stuff on it. That's it.
It just has some coloured stickers on it that looks a bit flash. So yeah, it's funny because it looks cool and I'm proud of it. And I'm proud of how my friend and I, Josh Dremel Designs, which I should mention, he did it in one weekend for me, and he put up with me and my iPad standing next to the car as we stuck it on. And it wasn't a full wrap either, which people think it is. He just did an amazing job to make it look like that. And we literally were like going out to the car, measuring, oh, maybe here, about that size. All right, go back to the cutter, make that sticker, put it on. Like, it wasn't like we had some, fancy machine color and somebody graphic design.
I love that though, because it just goes back to what we've been saying this whole time, with this kind of understated underdog nature of it, and just let's see what we can do. And
Yeah, it was a DIY. It was like there was no professional. Like, I didn't book it in and spend thousands of dollars on it like people think. And I'm not stupid.
It's like you're in Rocky 1. You're just like you're just there and just let's see if we can go the distance for it.
Exactly. And I think I'm not stupid either. If we had $5,000 to drop on a wrap, we definitely wouldn't do that. It would be $5,000 upgrading something in the car. This was just something that Josh happens to drive XLs as well. So I had met him through XLs, and he does some of the cars and was friends with that team that mentored me, and we became good friends. And so we helped him where we could, and he helped me where he could, and we paid him and tried to get his business off the ground. And he was amazing to help out. And I offered to go the whole weekend and stay up with him and stick and clean and, peel off the SDI badge and peel off the Subaru badge, which was a little bit sad having to scrape all that off with a blade, but, had to be done to get the wrap on. So, but yeah, it was cool. It's another experience where friends coming together and trying to help each other out to sort of put us on the map a little bit more. And also that I think people have said, someone said to me the other day, oh, you're so flashy. And it wasn't a dig, I don't think, but I think it's now become the perception of I've come on this scene and we've got this bright car. But it's not about being flashy. It was about being an interior designer, being hard on myself, always wanting to, if you're going to do something, do it the best you can and do it properly, and especially with sponsorship. And that's why we came up with the name and everything from the start. I never thought I would get a sponsor, but there's always that back of your mind, well, what happens if we do though? We want to be profitable. And I come from a business background. I did events management business in my uni degree, advertising, marketing, all of that kind of stuff is my head. So my head went into that business mind, even though it is still for fun. You still have to kind of treat it like a business if you expect someone to help you. So making the car look good came next, and then getting the shirts came third, and then now we have the tent and the flags. And it's not about being flashy, it's about showing anyone that wants to support us that we will do the same for you. It's
fun, but we take it seriously, and you can tell that it's building. The longer this goes on for, it is, yes, it's a hobby in some respects, but you take it seriously and you are prepared for it to go into
and we're a team that don't half-ass. Exactly. And we don't half-ass it. We will always do our best. And if you can see that we've gone above and beyond in those extra things, then that should show our personality, that when it comes to a rally, we don't give up. We will be under that car till midnight. And even though they're not the same thing, I think it shows it like a personality trait in there that you can trust.
There's a nice blend.
Yeah, we're not just going to throw the towel in, or who cares, it's not our money. We have this attitude, well, people paid for us to be here now. Like, we're going to do everything we can to make sure they get coverage and we perform for them. And again, then that just weighs on me of, oh my God, people helped me get here and now I have to really do well and all of that. But
it's back in.
It feeds that bad part of my personality. But also I love that I can do it, and I'm happy to. So I've got a sponsorship book now, and it's 12 pages long, and it's graphic design, and it's all of this. And again, that was money I actually had to get help with that because I am terrible on the computer. But I had a vision for it, and I went to a graphic designer who hasn't done that much race stuff, but we sort of worked together and chatted, and we came up with something we were pretty proud of. It took a bit, and that was, people don't see that stuff. Like, I have a day job and I race, and then you add stuff like this, it's a whole nother business.
On the other side of it, yeah.
On the side, and people go, oh yeah, this is all you do. I'm like, well, no, we still make money to pay for the car all week long.
I'm glad I make it look like it's that easy, but trust me, it's not.
No, and so my partner is the same. He'll work a full week of work, and then he's in the car from the time he finishes work till midnight doing the car, because we've got that on the weekend. And when he's doing that, I'm doing, and it's funny, people seem to think that I just jump in the car and drive, and that's all I do. But there's anyone that knows, if you're your own team, there's just, like I said, there's the admin, the marketing, the service crew, trying to get volunteers, trying to
it's very much the duck going through the pond of, like, you can see the calm on the top, but underneath it's just frantic.
Mayhem. That's it. I love that analogy. It's exactly like that. So yeah, it is, there's a lot of that. But I think because we have two businesses, both of us have our own business and work together, the car was just another extension of that. Now we work together on that, and we have another business together, which is the racing. So, and we've treated it like a second business pretty much from the time we started Rally. And I think that's why we've been able to get sponsors so far, because we treat it like that, and we don't just go, oh, give us some money, hey, like you can't
that doesn't usually work.
It doesn't work, so we want to put our best foot forward. I send my book, I organize an interview with them, I go in and they'll say just PDF it to me, send it by email. And if they're local, I'll say, oh no, I'd love to set a meeting with you, and I go in and meet them, present the actual hard copy, leave that with them, and then go home and PDF as well. So and you get a lot of no answers, or a lot of don't even know.
But again, it goes back to what you said before. If you're going to do it properly, and at least then, if you say no, well, at least it wasn't because of anything you did necessarily, because you put it all out.
That means we tried. Yeah, and it might not be the right fit. It might not be you did anything wrong, or you're not good enough, or anything. It's just not the right fit for that company. And it is hard with Rally. We don't get the coverage. We don't have TV crew. It's not circuit racing. I find the circuit racing, it's probably a bit easier. And that helps me, I guess, in my book. I can present the fact that I have two disciplines and two cars, so you sort of get more bang for your buck, because you will get the tarmac coverage as well as the rally coverage. But yeah, we don't have TV time or anything like that, so it's hard to get a sponsor to go, well, what do we
get out of
it? The mainly it's the sponsors that are willing to do it to help you, that it's not because it's going to bring
it's like you were saying about the story from earlier. You've got this team of people who there's no reason for them to help you. They're just doing it because it's the right thing to do.
And you'll get community people that just want to back some of the community, or they have an outreach program, or it's good for them to put their money back to a local team. You see with football teams and soccer teams, they want to give back to, so I guess it's the same at this level anyway. I don't know, when we get into the bigger levels and the TV stuff, it is all about where the camera is and how much bumper coverage you have of your sticker. But yeah, and in Rally, let's be real, like the stickers get covered up pretty much. If it's a muddy weekend, you can't read a single sticker by the time we finish two stages. So, but again, we're back trying to wash it all off when we get the chance. And, we do, that's why we do the flags and the tent and the, because at least it's always going to be on show. The car's out in the bush, you're not going to see it. So we try to give back in another way. Whereas at a racetrack on tarmac, you see that car, over and over again, and then it's in the pits for half the day before the next race, because there's always other races in between. So there's lots of time for the car to get seen. With a rally car, it leaves the park, and you probably won't see it again. So you'll see it when it comes back in filthy. And that's it. So by having all those things back at the service park, the tents, the flags, it's giving people that are walking around a chance to see those sponsors and, give back a little bit how we can, especially because we're not being interviewed. We're not the only teams that have, unfortunately with Rally, the only coverage they get is the ARC, and even then they only have time to interview like the top sort of 5 guys.
Yeah.
You know, even if the field's 30 long, you won't hear from anybody who's in that field unless they're in that top 10. And it's just because we just don't have I don't know. I think in Australia, there's so many amazing drivers. I really wish that they had a little bit more support in rally like they do overseas. So, and you see a lot of the kids now going overseas, you know, got Max McRae's gone over, and you know, Taylor Gill here, the young'un who just won the FIA Rally Star, like he's overseas now, because they're amazing drivers that deserve to be seen on the world stage. So it's just unfortunate that we don't have
you see like the tip of the iceberg, you don't get to see the rest of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's so much grassroots stuff going on, like that I would love for people to see. You know, like I said, I didn't even know what a carnacross was, or that existed, that you could go to a club that's near your house and just drive on the dirt, you know. And actually, going back to when you asked about the best memory of the first one, another reason why that one was so great, which is the rally I'm actually going to next week, is that the community is really great there. It's the Gympie Council, and the mayor there is amazing, and he loves bringing the rally to town. He loves getting the community involved. He tells the whole town months in advance. They do coverage of it in local papers. They put on what they call Wheels on Mary, which is, it's Mary Street. It's the main street in town. We actually are, as part of our duties, we go to that rally on the night before we start. We for 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours, all the cars come to the main street. We park up in team colours, in suits, the whole thing, and the community is told well in advance. They have music and food, and all the cars get parked up, and the community gets a chance to look inside the cars, meet the drivers. It's really cool. So my first one, I was like, what are we doing here? Like, we were car 85 out of 88. So we were at the very back, but they didn't even have room for us to park, basically, almost, because the street was loaded. And I had all of these communities treating me like a real driver, and I just felt like a fraud. And they were like, oh, you know, how long have you been driving? I'm like, oh, this will be my first one. So, but I met so many people in the same boat as me, and that was the best. I remember coming home talking about that for a week, that I met mothers, especially being a female and one of only a handful of female drivers there, saying, well, how did you get into it? Oh, you must have a dad that raced, or you must have a lot of money. And it was so great to be able to say, no, you really can just do this. Like, you know, I don't know, you know, for Christmas, save up. Like, she had a 14-year-old daughter, and she was like, oh, she loves this. The Subaru is her dream car. And oh my God. And they were looking at me, like idolizing me, which was crazy, because I was and it was quite surreal. But the best part was being able to say, actually, no, this is my real story. You know, it was 5 months ago, and I'm not joking you. It was $500, and we're not lying to you. Like, just go and join your track. And they got my details, and we listed off a couple of clubs that we knew of that we had driven at near their home, and said, go, these guys are nice. You know, it costs you $100 for the day to go race whatever you want and get the experience. I said, she's 14. Imagine if she starts now, like me, you know, she'll be amazing. Just give her a few years. Like, don't hold back and think it's out of reach. And I think that's the misconception. You'll
be there in a few years going, damn it, why did you let this happen? You're beating me on track now.
You know, for sure. But like, I would love to come across them again, and hope to hear that, you know, it's great. Actually, I have had a couple of parents that I met even at the Excel racetrack ask me about rally, and I said how we started, and they were like, what? And so when we started Excel, I came across that family, and their daughter was 15, and they ran up to me and said, do you remember us from last November? And I was like, oh yeah. She said, we just wanted to let you know that my daughter's going to race this year. And I'm like, oh really? Because I've got an Excel too. And I said, for Christmas. They're like, oh, awesome. And they said, well, it was actually the conversation that we had with you that she heard, that she wanted to do it, and they knew other race people. It was just meeting another girl.
Yeah, that push. Yeah. Need to see it to do it then.
And the ones that they knew had been go-kart kids. So there's that, like, oh, well, I can't do it. I'm already 15. So they're already been doing this for years. But to hear someone else who's like, well, I didn't do karts, and I'm going to have a go. Who cares? So we were in the same boat. So I actually started my first race with that girl who apparently I inspired, but yet we were newbies together. And we did the whole season as newbies together. So it's quite weird to hear her say that it was motivating for them. I'm like, well, it's gone full circle because you've motivated me.
Yeah,
because
it's weird feedback.
And I wasn't actually going to race. I had no intention. We just had the car and we were going to do general practice for the entire year. We weren't going to actually commit. She told me she was going to race. And I went, and they said, what are you doing, Nikki? Race. And I'm like, no way. And they're like, but she is. And I'm like, okay. So it was funny. I apparently had motivated her by hearing her story.
It's a chicken and egg situation.
Yeah, definitely. So then I went, well, okay, then we'll race together. Why not? So that's the cool part about the story. And I think that's what I like telling the most.
So a couple of fun non-motorsport related questions to finish off then. Kind of quick fire, we'll see, depending on what the answers are. So best thing about Queensland that people globally won't know.
They won't know. Oh, there's misconceptions, probably that we're bogans, but I can't say that because I'm not from Queensland. I'm a trader. I'm from New South Wales. So I've got to put that in because I still go to New South Wales. Before.
Okay, then go for what's the best thing about New South Wales then?
Oh God, well I left, so I'm probably the wrong person to ask.
This is not going well.
Oh, no. I don't know. I think
it's going to just keep expanding with like Australia. Just tell me something about Australia.
Yeah, Australians in general, I think, but people know this. Obviously, we're loud and proud, but we're generally pretty sarcastic, but it's usually fun when there's never an intention of like we take the piss because we get to know you. And I think Americans probably the most, and I probably got this when I was in England too, is if we're giving you a nickname that has a bad connotation, usually it means that that's a term of endearment almost. Like I would never call a best mate a rude name because it's when you're meant to be mad, but I don't use that word when I'm mad because that's awful. I would call a mate that around the track or camping because it's a term of endearment. So I don't know if people know that or just think we're rude.
But it's like that thing sometimes. If I'm not going to say anything nice to you, why the hell would I do that? But it's kind of, I'm going to say something mean, but in a nice way, so you know how I mean it.
If I don't know you, I'm super polite. If I know you, I'm just going to rip on you.
Yeah.
If we're friends, we just rip on each other. And I think that comes with the territory. Probably in the sports that I do too, I'm around a lot of boys. And I've just ran with that.
Comes with the territory.
I give them shit, they give me shit, and I'm an equal then, rather than, oh, we can't say that around the girl. Like, I hate that. So I just talk to me like you talk around them. Sometimes you got to rein them in. I'm like, I'm not girly. Like, I don't know if I want to hear that part, but yeah.
But it's good to know where the line is.
Yeah, they don't know where the line is sometimes. You got to remind them. Like, that's a little bit too far.
Yeah. And final question, would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or a horse-sized duck?
Oh my God. Well, I did do Muay Thai and ducks are too cute. So I would say the horse. That is the most random question.
I always love filling out people.
I thought it was going to be like, what do you prefer, Talladega Nights or Days of Thunder or something along those lines?
No, I had to find a curveball at you. You've been answering my question before I get to ask them, so I've got to do something different.
No, but I'm an animal lover, so it's hard for me to use any analogy of fighting any animals. I'm literally the girl that lays in the paddock with my cow and goes to sleep on his belly. So
and so I've seen that cow. That is quite a cute thing that you've got going.
Oh my God. He's my baby. I raised him since he was a day old. So, he's a big bull now, but I can't get in the paddock because he tries to wrestle me like we used to. And that's another reason.
That's not going to go well.
No, even the other day when I saw him right before a rally, he threw his head up to try and like headbutt me and play, but he bruised all of my forearm right before testing. So that wasn't great. But if he's sitting down in the paddock, it's safe to like walk around. I can literally go up to him and lay on him and he'll throw his head around and lay on my lap and start snoring, and he's massive.
And then you can't move for the rest of the day.
Yeah, and I don't. And my partner laughs at me, goes, "Oh, great, that's you done for the day now, is it? I'm just sitting in the paddock, come in with hay in my hair."
Can you bring me a book? Because I can't just be here the whole time. Let me just do something with one hand. That's
it. And that's probably where, like you were saying about social media or like, the livery on the car and the misconception. That's funny because that's the flip side of us as well, like business and interior design and an eye for detail. But then I go home to my property and I'm in my trackies, my Ugg boots, I'm laying in the dirt, literally covered in animal slobber, and I'm having the best time. Like, I'm so content just laying and cuddling my animals. So so many hats that we wear here, and I love them all, and I don't love any of them more than the other. Like, it's just, we go into race mode, and today I'm a race car driver, and tomorrow I'm, you know, picking out food for the animals, and I'm at the stock shop and I'm like loading chicken pellets in a bucket, like with my Ugg boots on. So it's completely different. It's not all like glamorous.
It's that weirdly perfect blend.
Yeah, and it just shows how grassroots it is. It's not like we get to sit around and wait for
in some cases they're the animals. So
yeah, literally grassroots, like laying in the hay. So yeah, it's a fun life. I'm very, very lucky to have the life that I have. It's very busy. I don't think I'd have it any other way though. I definitely don't feel like stopping or slowing down anytime soon. I just wish the clock would stop on the years and give me a few more, and that you can't wish that your life was different, but I definitely think, knowing what I know now, I could have, you know, I wished I'd got into cars a lot earlier, but things happen for a reason, and I had a great time in my 20s in bikes and whatever. So, you know, maybe I wouldn't be here if it wasn't.
It all led you to this. So
it all led me to this point, and to my partner who I met. And if it wasn't for him, again, I don't know if I would have done cars. Just because you have a love for it doesn't make it happen. And I definitely think he's the exact same personality as me. And it's say, you know, they always say opposites attract, but that's not, we don't,
not all the time.
We don't believe that. I shouldn't say partner now because he's my fiance, but we just are exactly the same in every way like that. It's always here to here in a heartbeat. Like everyone's like, how did you get? I'm like, because of him. He's the worst part of this, and he'll blame it on me.
You're very much just the Kermit meme of he's the one then in the cloak going, do it.
We are definitely that for each other. We say that analogy. I love that. You've got the best analogy. It's definitely the Kermit with the hood and the tee and boys. And if it, I'll do it to him and he'll do it to me. So, you know, if I even say, oh, that looks cool, like the XLs, like I mentioned the mentors and that knew me, and then he went and bought an XL and was like, yeah, you could do that. And then I'll say to him, oh, we should build a hotel, like, and do a farm state. Guess what we're doing? So, you know, it just takes an idea from one of us, and then I'll draw something and go, what do you think this? I reckon we could do this. I reckon we could make that. And he's like, well, show me what you want and we'll make it happen. And we feed each other to the extent of nobody's there with the voice of reason to say, slow down. Like,
well, because I mean, sometimes that ruins it.
Yeah,
reason, because then you start limiting yourself when you start having these doubts. And as we know from this conversation, if you doubt yourself enough as it is.
Exactly. So we're entrepreneurial as well as dreamers, as well as optimists at every point. So we never have that pessimistic voice saying that's not viable or you can't afford that, or even though we probably should have that voice saying you can't afford that. But we find a way, and that's where we end up. We just find a way. If you want it, and it's such a cliche thing to say, but if you want it, you make it happen. You can't just sit around, and I've got it in my sponsorship book for a reason. Like, chase your dreams. Don't just dream them. Like, don't sit back and go, I wish I could do that, or one day, or they're really lucky that they get to do that. You hear that all the time. Oh, you're so lucky. And my partner and I hate that word. We're not lucky. We're blessed to be able to do it now.
Do you want to see what that looks like on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, it's not luck, you know. Actually, my partner said a perfect balance of that, because I take it differently to him, but he hears it in the mechanical side. Like, we had a mechanical failure, we got a radiator at a rally, or we had other things fail or whatever, and he had a spare there, you know. And so you should, but we've learned that in time with what happens at a rally. We didn't know that the first rally we went to, and then this time around, like, we've learned and we've taken that on board, and we've made sure we've been able to find money to have spare parts brand new, ready to go. And people said to him all day, oh, you're so lucky. You guys were so lucky that you had that spare part there. And he's like, it didn't just appear from Genie. This was preparation. Like, you know, the piece saying, which I'm not going to say, but, you know, preparation. So, and it was him ahead of time, you know, buying all these things that hopefully we won't need, wasting money on stuff that we don't need currently.
Just in case.
But just in case, because we want to finish. And it wasn't luck. It was, you know, hard work and preparation. And the same with, we're so lucky that we're here now and we get to race car drive. Nobody handed us this race car. Nobody paid for it. Nobody, you know, just said, you can go drive. This was me saying, I want to go do that, and going and doing it. And then let's try and do this. Let's get our money. Let's work really hard. And whatever spare money we have, let's put it in the car. So we're lucky that our business, that we are financially able to start, that's definitely that. Yeah. But again, that's not luck. That's us building our business up to a point where we have money. We weren't handed this business either. So it's that same mentality of working hard. And so lucky is such a funny word to use. You know, I get where it comes from, and I don't think people mean it in that way. No. But it's nice to, and that's what I was saying before about being able to say to people when we are meeting the public and the communities at the race, that you do want to tell them how you did it, so they know it's not a parent paying for you, or you got a sponsored deal out of nowhere, or you grew up with it and it was handed.
All of these things had to line up for this to happen, and even then there was no guarantee of it. I think that's just one element of it.
Yeah, and it could have quite easily failed, easily, and we could have given up after the first one, or the first night when the car didn't start, and there was all these clunky sounds and metal sounds, and it was not a good sound. We got stranded at testing, and no one knew that we were stranded, and our phones didn't work. And it was a neighbor across the road that saw our rally car and said, "Are you guys racers?" Only because we had suits on. The car was plain white, looked like a car. And they said, "Do you need a lift back to the showgrounds? Isn't that where that rally's happening?" And we're like, "Yeah, we were 45 minutes away." And she was like, "We'll drive you if no one's coming to get you. We don't have anyone to come and get us, and there's no taxis in this area."
Nope.
And we got a phone reception, and we had no service crew. Our trailer was back at the park, and there was no one to bring that trailer to us. So she offered us a lift to get us back, and then my partner had to get back in the car with the trailer, drive back to where the car was, pick it up, and come back again. So he's essentially just done 3 trips. And this was all before we were supposed to go to this parade. And then we had to diagnose working on the car, and then we stayed up. That was a Thursday, sorry. So then he stayed up working on it, and that was when this other team came in to help. So it's not really, that's the sort of stories that people don't really hear when they think that, you turn up with a bright coloured car and clothing and flags, and it's all fun and games.
It's all this thing of just you judging the book by its cover there, and not really going to have a look even at the blurb.
It's the blood, sweat and tears behind the scenes. But but then I don't want to scare people and think, "Oh my God, it's so hectic, don't come do it," because I think maybe if we'd seen that, like I said, we had the ignorance of not knowing, so we just did it. But if we can do it, you can do it. I say that to everyone. If I can do it at this age with no experience, and I'm sort of doing it, I don't know if I'm doing it well, but we're doing it.
So that was almost like a perfect way to finish that there. It's like, if I could do it, you could do it. Well, I'm kind of doing it. Okay, I'm maybe doing it. You had it the first time. You should have left it there.
Yeah, I should have left it there. That's just that voice, the evil voice saying, "You're not really doing it." There's still that part of me that feels like a fraud. I think that will always be there. It's I don't belong here, but I love it, so I don't care. You can tell me to wrap off and good, but I'll probably just use that as fuel to the fire if I got told that I was terrible. Even yesterday, I'm like, I wanted the criticism from the coach. I wanted him to say, "What are you doing? This is terrible." And I think he was scared to say anything. And I said, "Please don't be scared to tell me, because I love it. If anything, it'll help me, number one, get better, but it'll fuel my fire, because if someone tells me I can't do it, well, I'm going to push more, aren't I?"
She's going to figure out, maybe I can't, but I'm going to push it to the absolute limit to find out first.
And it's weird. I am actually more comfortable hearing criticism than I am hearing compliments. So if someone was to say, "Oh, you do really well," or you're really smooth," I'm like, "Oh, no. And probably another worst trait is if I get a compliment, I do the negative comeback. So you can say, "Oh, that was really well. You just did that corner perfect." And I go, "Oh, nah, the entry, and I go into this nervous head down, and I'll literally convince you, like I'm in a debate team, that what you think just then isn't true. And I'll have you rethinking, well, maybe she didn't do it good, because I will convince you that I didn't. And that's.
And the annoying thing about that is you could come and criticize, then you just accept that. You wouldn't try and talk us back into, "Oh no, I actually did it pretty well." I'm like, damn, this doesn't work in reverse.
It doesn't work in reverse. And unfortunately it's not a polite trait to have. Learning to say thank you is not, that's come my whole life with dancing, with career, with anything. Thank you is the right response, not, "Oh no, I stuffed up there and I stuffed up here and I wish I did this better." And people don't want to hear that. So I just keep it real, but probably too real.
Oh dear. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. and I want to wish you the best of luck with everything you get up to for the rest of this year and beyond. It's going to be very interesting to see where you end up. Because, like you say, if this is what's happened this quickly, then who knows where you're going to be this year time, next year, a couple of years time. You get the picture.
We could go anywhere. Who knows? We might not even be in rally cars. We'd probably be on some other apparatus that you've never even heard of. So who knows? But yeah, we'll keep on going as long as we can keep on going, I guess. So until we don't love it anymore. So I think that's the key. Do it while you love it. And if you don't love it, don't do it.
Thanks again to Nikki for coming on to the Kerbs with me. I can't wait to see how she gets on in the rest of 2023 and beyond. If you want to follow her career, links to her socials will be in the description below, so do go and check those out. Join me again next time when I'll be chatting to another famous face from the world of motorsport. In the meantime, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, as well as check out the back catalogue of episodes on the On the Kerbs channel. If you want even more from me, you can listen to me chat about everything Formula 1 over on the Undercut podcast, as well as delving into the world of Nitro Cross over on the Nitro RX Podcast. Both available wherever you get podcasts. As for written content, I currently write for Is It Fast and Paddock Sorority, so be sure to check all of them out with original pieces released each week. All of the information and links for those will be in the description below, as well as my Instagram handle if you want to go and follow me there. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll be back soon with another episode.